Yup. Let's do a build video, shall we? It's been a long time since I've done one. What's going on, guys? Gingerbread Man. Oh, wait. We're not Gingerbread Man anymore. That's right. Ginger RN. Coming at you 4K, 60 FPS through the power of the Xbox Series X. And today I'm bringing you a non-harmony Mag Necro PvP build. In this build, we are going to utilize the Magic Necromancer's summoning abilities and the dot damage that they have passively. And it's going to be something that's different. Not your typical Mag Necro build. It's not your Plague Break, Dark Convergence, you know, every other meta build that's out there. This is something that's fun, unique, does damage, great group play, can even solo if you're good enough at it. A little bit of everything to the table. First things first, let's dive into the character sheet. These are our unbuffed stats. This is in Cyrodiil. I'm not even sure entirely what buffs are on right now. Yeah, nothing. There's just Battle Spirit. Probably have no keeps or anything at the moment, but these are our unbuffed stats. So we're looking at 30,000 max magic, almost 30,000 max health, and almost 20k max stamina. Decent stats. You know, a lot of people like to run the bear haunch for the recovery. I like to run max stats because the Magic Necro has gotten quite a few buffs in the past patch that allows us to get a little bit of recuv through our skills and our abilities. And with that being said, you can run low recovery. So that's fucking great. You can just, you know, put your champion points and other aspects of you know, resource sustain away, you know, pack it up, put it in a coffer for the day, and, you know, your skills are actually what's going to get you by through this build. Mag recovery, 1241, it's perfect. Health recovery, 432, and we're not a vampire. You could go vamp if you really wanted to, but I have been running without it lately, and I think I kind of like it better. You know, the Mag Necro has that ability to stay alive and survive, but to each their own. It's not necessary, at least in my opinion. But I mean, obviously being vampire, you would add a shitload more tankiness, and you know, your survivability would be pushed to the max. But I think you would find it quite surprising that this build is fine the way it is. Stamina recovery, 576, and like I said, these are all unbuffed. So, spell damage, 3776. That is super fucking high for base spell damage. I don't care what anyone says. To hit almost 4k spell damage before any buffs, that is really high. Yes, I know the spell penetration is low, but we don't have to worry about that because our, like I said, skills play into a huge part of this build, and that spell pen will go up. Spell critical 18. It's not a spell build, or it's not a crit build, I should say. But the pots that we do use make that go up a little bit, I think to 24%. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then our resistances are fine the way they are. This is the front bar, back bar before buffs. We're looking at almost 20k spell and almost 17k physical. And we are a Breton, so the spell will go up when we have a I don't even remember what triggers that. Is it a spell or spell resistant burning? Okay, yeah. So when you have status effect on you. Okay, so let's do full buffed up. Now I say full buffed up. This is before our pet. I mean before our recovery is all the way up, so that's 1862 recovery, 4488 spell damage, and the spell damage will get up to 5600. So here we go, rebuffed. We're gonna apply that. There we go. That's looking pretty good, isn't it? Isn't it? Look at the spell penetration's going up still. That'll go up even higher, of course, when you apply your debuff. But that recuv was over 2,000. Did you see that? Over 2,000. And if you keep that up, you have no problem sustaining on this build. All right, so Bewitched Sugar... I just had a stroke. Bewitched Sugar Skulls, that's the food we're using. And then pairing that with the Atro, you will get by just fine with this, I promise you. If you feel like you don't need that much recuv, then by all means, change it to whatever you want. You can put some into the lover, get a little more penetration, if you know what I mean. All right, Breton and no vampire. Jumping into the skills, front bar, looking at Mystic Siphon, Stalking Blast Bones, Degen, Frost Clench, Elemental Drain, and Ice Comet. Back bar, Beckoning Armor, Resistant Flesh, Race Against Time, Spirit Guardian, Mortal Coil, Panchea! Yeah, that's right. I don't have it buffed. I don't have it morphed yet, but it'll come. Just give it some time. So let's explain why we're using what we're using. Master's Perfected Ice Staff. It's running Nirn Honed. I like the extra spell damage because while we're on our front bar, our heals will be better. And then if you look at the tooltips, it's adding 103 weapon and spell damage because it's perfected. And you get that huge burst potential with 600 weapon and spell damage for 4 seconds when you hit Clench. And it reduces the cost of Destructive Touch by 10%. This is already reduced just by having it being an Ice Staff. I don't know if you guys know this, but having an Ice Staff and using Clench, you already have reduced cost because that's part of the passives in the destruction tree. And then having the Master's Ice Staff equipped, it's reducing the cost by another 10%. So if you go to Clench, this is our spammable. I know the damage is low. It's only 4,000, but it only costs 1,200 magic to use. And it immobilizes the targets. On top of immobilizing people, you know, it's in a way it's kind of a clutch CC because it does cost stam to dodge roll. If you think about it, people are forced to either dodge roll or break free. If you make them do at least one or the other, you know, what have you. It's annoying to be immobilized, especially because the cooldown on it is shorter than being CC'd. And then our CC is going to be Beckoning Armor, but I mean, it kind of sucks because Necro doesn't have a reliable CC in their toolkit, I should say. So this is like what's best in my opinion. I'm pretty biased when it comes to CCs. Some classes can get away with them like without running them, and then others like necessarily depend on it for their combo. But this is quite nice. It pairs really well, and it's giving major maim. I don't know if a lot of people know that either, but if you do a Frost Staff with Clench, you're going to reduce the enemy's damage by 10% for 5 seconds. So keep that in mind. That's huge damage reduction right there. So Mystic Siphon, this got a big buff. When you have a corpse and you're siphoning it, you get 150 health, magicka, and stamina recovery. All three across the board. And it's a free skill. And you're going to increase your damage done by 3%. And while the skill is active, you're going to increase your penetration. So I don't know why there's not any reason to not run this. If you can think of a reason not to run this other than bar space, tell me in the comments, because this is fucking phenomenal. Super important ability right here. I like... What else are they going to do? Like make this have spell damage next patch? Or increase the amount of effects it gives you? It's free, gives you recovery through all 3 recoveries, increases your damage done, and if you go into the Gravelord tree, when you have a Gravelord ability, you get 1,500 penetration. Oh, and let's not forget, it's also a dot. 15% increased dot damage, and it's giving you a dot over 12 seconds. That's a big dot, too. That used to be like what Degen and what's the soul ability? Consuming Trap. Like these are what was the name of that patch? Is there no one else would be a good person to talk to about this? Back when dots were like super ridiculous, but that's what the tooltips used to read off of those. And we're getting this from an ability that's free for us to use. And it's at 36 meters, what have you. So, Super nice ability to have on your bar. It's also going to increase your crit strike when you have something slotted in your grave lord tree. So we have 8% increased bonuses for that too. I mean, anything that just gives you that much of a utility, it's why not run it? Stocking Blast Bones, bread and butter. That tooltip's pretty nice, unbuffed too. Like I said, our spell damage can get up to 5,600 before Balorg. I forgot to mention that 5,600 before Balorg. So if you get a full Balorg proc, you're looking at close to 60, 65, 6,600 spell damage. It's a really small window, but I mean, it's awesome. Degen, another dot. If you remember what I was saying in the tree here, we have 15% increased dot damage. Frost Clench, we already went over that. And Ellie Drain, because we don't have that penetration on board, I like to keep this on the bar, and it serves a purpose for, you know, being a free skill, so we don't really have to use that much magic when we're going through our rotation. I chose Ice Comet because I already had Degen slotted, so why not increase the recovery and max magic? I just thought that this was appropriate because we're already running the Clench, and it's not the best ultimate in my opinion. Like, Dawnbreaker would probably be a better solution, but I just enjoy using it, if that makes sense. Like, it's not that great because it's easily blocked pretty much 95% of the time, but I like, you know, shit shooting from the sky, so that's why I have it slotted. You could also probably put Colossus here too. I mean, you could freeze someone, and they may block through it, but at least they're frozen through it and they have increased damage from your Colossus. But keep that in mind. Ice Comet, that's what I use, that's what I like. It feels good. I just do what feels good. And then if they are immobilized, depending on when you can hit them with the Ice Comet, they're going to be stuck in that dot too. So remember, you have increased dot damage, and they're going to be standing in that meteor dot. They're going to take quite a bit of beating. Beckoning Armor, we're using this because we don't have a reliable CC, and it pulls in ranged people too. So anybody that's gonna be sniping me or just hitting me from far enough away that I can't see you or worry about you because you're not in front of me, you're gonna get pulled in towards me. So that's why I run it. I don't care about the increased cost of, you know, the Spirit Guardian or the Blast Bones because it's not really important since we have such high recovery. Resistant Flesh, super good burst heal. So we're going to get resistances from that too. Race Against Time, of course, that's our snare removal and speed buff. I like Spirit Guardian. I think the other morph is completely garbage. I don't know why. It works for pretty much every other YouTuber out there, so that's just my biased opinion. I think Spirit Guardian's way better, especially for the fact that it's still going to heal you. Yeah, maybe not as much, but you're going to get major, well, it's not major medding because this can technically go on top of major protection. So major protection plus an extra 10% from your ghost, that's 20% right there. Mortal Coil, this is also going to give us stamina recovery. Stam recovery is good because, you know, dodge rolling is super important, especially if you can, you know, watch your stamina bar and have enough to break free along with dodge rolling. So keeping this up at all times too. Also a super good burst heal for our our back bar set. I'm sure you saw it when we were doing the buff ups. Panchea, this is just an annoying skill for people that are, you know, thirsty and constantly on your ass at all times. I like to pop this even in BGs because people see you pop this and they either get frustrated and, you know, keep the pressure on you, or most of the time they'll just run away and be like, well, fuck this. This guy's going to pop resto ulti, then I'm just not going to fuck with them anymore. And then you can turn around and burst him down with all of your abilities. So that's how I look at it. It's also like if you don't have enough skill points as I do on this character, it's nice to have like a really good low cost ultimate next to not Race Against Time. whatever the Psijic ulti is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Precognition, I think that's what it's called. You know, you get the decreased damage. I think it's 5%, but like I said, this is just as good, in my opinion. And this is the unmorphed, so when it's morphed, you get all the resto abilities that go off too when you activate this. So those are the skills. Very good setup. I think I like playing this way, aside from using the Boneyard and a Harmony build. It's a lot of fun, especially when you can see what you can do with it. And like I said, give it a shot. If you don't like it, then, you know, you don't have to play like this, but this is really effective. Super effective. And I think you'll be surprised if you just give it a shot. Let's jump into the gear. I'm sure you saw the Rallying Cry buff when we were in the beginning of the video doing our buff up. I run defending. Powered works just as well too. Honestly, powered or defending, they're both equally good. I like to be a little more tanky on the back bar, and the heals are already there, so I figured why not just put a little more in defense. I have the Absorb Magicka enchant just because it's a resto staff. Why not get a little bit more Magicka back when you're doing your heavies? You could run a poison too, but we have poisons on the front bar. Remember, dot damage, 15% increased on dots. So I run a double dot poison with the return of health on top of it too. Balorg, Impen on most of my big pieces, but Impen is really not that important either ever since they gave you like a flat rate of, what is it, 1100 or 1000? I don't remember what the flat crit resist is, but Impen's nice to have, but on a Crow it's not that important. Body pieces. Ancient Dragon Guard. This is a set that people sleep on, and I don't know why. It does two equally good things as Rallying Cry. So Rallying Cry is going to give us crit, max magic, crit, and then when Battle Spirit's active, so either in Cyrodiil or Battlegrounds or dueling, you're going to get weapon and spell damage buff and then crit resistance. So let's look at this. Ready? Damage buff, crit resistance. Ancient Dragon Guard. Damage buff, physical and spell resistance. So you're getting an offense and defense buff in both of these sets. So if you think about it, Necro is already good at damage mitigation. So the best way I could think of playing a Magic Necro without Boneyard and Harmony is to always be on the defense by having a strong offense. So if both sets are allowing me to stay offense while I'm maintaining a defense, you can pretty much be on your offense the entire time. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't confuse anyone. So a strong defense is a strong offense. So having both sets that allow your offense to maintain while having a defense. Am I losing anyone? I kind of confused myself there, but you get what I'm saying. So each 5-piece basically gives you a damage buff and a defense buff. And of course, you know, when you pair Rallying Cry to what's some other good sets out there? Like Iron Blood, that's just defense. Fortified Brass, that's just defense. Not Rallying Cry, I meant Ancient Dragon Guard. Like, they are really good 5 body piece defense sets, but I like this because it also gives you the offense. So as long as we're not under 50% health, we're going to have that damage buff. But even if we are, we're still going to maintain physical and spell resistance and still having a damage buff from Rallying Cry. So both of these are going to flip-flop pretty much at all times of the fight. Rallying Cry is going to proc when you're even at 100% health. And then when you drop below 50% health, you're going to lose the damage from this, but gain resistance and maintaining the damage buff from Rallying Cry. Does that make sense? I think I explained it a little bit better that way. So the Necro is just basically at all times going to be this, you know, damage output machine and then still getting defense passively, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I know that was a long tangent. I'm sorry, I should have explained it better in the first place, or else we wouldn't be as long into the video as we are. And then my jewelry are blue pieces, unfortunately. I don't know. I have no excuse, really. They should be purple at least, but I like having arcane at least on one jewelry piece because it's almost 1,000, and like max stats are important to me. I like to have at least 30,000 magic, so that's why this is arcane. Bloodthirsty because there's not really a reliable execute in the Necro toolkit. And then infused spell damage just to pump up our damage as much as we can. Spell damage on the rings, and then magic recovery on the necklace. You could also probably get away with a triune on this too, if you think you have enough recovery. So whatever you feel is comfortable. Like I said, do what feels good. And then to back into the pieces here, I run a 3-3-1. So light armor is, you know, pretty much obsolete to me anymore. There's no point in running a light armor build unless you're like strictly in group play. I'm talking like 4 minimum people, no less. Otherwise, you're just gonna get mollywopped the entire time. So we have a medium mask, a heavy chest, a heavy legs, and then the rest are mediums. So medium boots, gloves, and mask. And then honestly this should be light, but I don't have a light battle orgs. And then that should be heavy, and this should be light, just if you want to mid-max, but to each their own. Okay, jumping into the champion points here. We have Focused Mending. This is going to increase your burst heal done by 10%. Master at Arms, direct damage is more important than single target because direct damage is pretty much all damage. Single target mainly focuses on, like, if you're running Crushing Shock or the Flame Skull ability. Degen would fall into the single target category, but that's pretty much our only one. And then Frost Clench too. That's technically single target, but it's also direct damage too. So Thaumaturge, we're just going to pump up our dot damage even more by another 6%. So we're sitting at 21% increased dot damage. And then Ironclad, reduce damage taken by direct damage attacks by 3%. And that's nice to have just, you know, as a flat rate percent. Red Tree, Celerity, increased movement speed, always nice to have. The faster you are, the more chances you are at surviving. This is also good to have in the toolkit of a Necro because since we already have such high damage mitigation, why not just add a little bit more? So every effect that we get, it's 2% damage mitigation, going up to a max of 20%. Now, if you have that many effects on you, you're 100% gonna die. So I'm not sure why they have it like this. I would like to see this skill changed a little bit. This honestly works best for tanks that have, like, you know, 10, 11, 12 debuffs on them, and, you know, all these status effects that are just, you know, channeling through because it's one player standing out in the open and then 10 other people are trying to kill him. You see it all the time. You know what I'm talking about in Cyrodiil, those people that stand on the bridge and just don't die. That's when you would see the full, you know, use of this CP tree, but honestly, it's nice to have if you have like 2, 3, 4, you know, you get like a 4%, 6% damage mitigation. Sustained by suffering. This plays into our mag and stam recovery as well, because as long as we have a status effect on us, which you always will, you're going to get extra recovery too. So keep that in mind on the 2000 mag recovery we already bring to the table. You're going to sustain just fine on this build. And then who doesn't like max health? Max health is great. I like to have at least 30,000. 32 is probably a safer route if you're a newer player, but 30,000 works just as well. And then green tree, not really important. It's just like mount speed, treasure chests, food, timers, and I don't even remember what the last one is. Oh yeah, out of combat speed buff. So there you go. All right, guys, that completes this build. It works in both Battlegrounds and in Cyrodiil. I have a lot of fun with it. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Magic Necro is here to stay. You don't have to play Harmony. Please don't stay in that mindset. It is a fun tune to play around with. You know, honestly, read the passives. You know, take a look at some of the sets that I gave you and tell me what you think. You know, Magic Necro has full capability of burst and, you know, solo gameplay if you know how to play it right. Get out of that light armor. Light armor is not important. Honestly, light armor should be buffed a little bit in my opinion, but I think that playing with a 3-3-1 setup and having these sets, you'll be quite surprised at what you're able to do with the Magic Necromancer. All right, guys, with that being said, I'm out. Stay frosty, my friends.